right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from all ages, we're back on the podcast of awesomeness. Welcome back yet again. A new week, a new podcast, a new guest, a better one this time. I must say that um, new week as I mentioned, and we have so much new fun stuff that's coming up this week by the end of the week as well. So many cool new things that we have to announce on our page. So anybody who's watching this, welcome to the podcast. If you're watching this after we're done, and if you're having a replay of this, you're a fan. If you're having this on a replay. And moving further with our podcast today, we have a very special guest, as you can see on my right. I guess that's about right. That's the left. There we go. And let me tell you, as as cute as she looks, she's just like equally badass. And not only that, that's true. She's actually a title holder right now. She's actually a champion. So on our podcast today, let's welcome. We have Thekla from Japan. How are you doing today, ma'am?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Pretty tired,
Oh,
I gotta
that's
say. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah,
it's already
yeah,
past 2 a.m. here in Japan,
yeah.
so I would be in bed by now. But I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. So is this usually the time that you go to bed, or is it something like it's about 2 3 a.m.? Is that the usual time that you usually go to bed?
Yeah, I think usually around 2, 3 a.m. is the time where I go to bed. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so for anybody who's listening, see we appreciate all our guests, whoever comes on our podcast, but this one is a special case because we're live, and just because we're live, she's so generous and so great enough to take out time and be available at 2 a.m. her time. So
It's
that's really awesome. That's really awesome.
all
All right.
good.
So
It's
moving
all
so
good.
moving ahead. So um, first of all, I'd like to know, like, because I've every guest I've talked to, I've asked them this question. So I'll ask you too. I'm not sure how things are in Japan, but how have you been through this lockdown and the pandemic situation?
Mm, um, I have to say it's been pretty okay, actually. So, of course, it's a difficult situation and all, but it's super special here in Japan, and especially with my company. So, first of all, I was only supposed to be here for 6 weeks, and then shit hit the fan back at home, and
Mhm.
I decided to stay here. So, what was supposed to be 6 weeks became 6 months. And during that time, my company just sort of didn't stop doing shows. So we didn't have any, of course, we didn't have any live audience, but we were still doing shows. So basically, I'm pretty lucky to be here because back at home, of course, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So we didn't stop doing shows. We didn't stop training. Of course, we were being pretty, cautious about it. But basically, I've been doing more wrestling than ever, actually. So of course, it's a difficult situation, and my heart goes out to everybody else in the wrestling business because it's such a tough time. But yeah, I was pretty lucky.
Well, that's great. I mean, there are very few people who would take out take away something very incredible from something so devastating like this.
Mm,
And it's been very rough for a lot of people around the globe because
totally.
some people lost their jobs, and
I
some
know,
companies
man.
lost their yeah, it's
Like
really bad. But
super bad.
I would also like take a moment and appreciate all of those people who took this as an opportunity to learn something new, to create something from them, from what they have, whatever time they have. For example, this podcast, it started basically because there was lockdowns and stuff like that. Otherwise
Oh,
I
that's
wouldn't have
great.
yeah, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten time to create a show where we host everything. But uh,
To be honest, like
yeah,
this is super interesting because I think even though this is such a crazy time and it has definitely done so much damage to this business and also entertainment in general. I also think like when there's a crisis like this, it can be an opportunity for things to evolve also. So it's not only your podcast, but also I think other businesses that had to like overthink stuff, you know. So I
Yeah.
think even though this is bad, it also gave the possibility to people to be, you know, to be creative and come up with something new. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that you started this.
Yeah, and the essence of this show was to highlight, those who are not very highlighted as on, like, I started this with my friends. So we based on the life of how they came to be a professional wrestler and everything, because
Mm,
a lot of my friends in my city where we live, they're also professional wrestlers and everything. So
cool.
then it went on to people from other cities, then from people from other countries, and then it became a global thing. So right now, like, you in
That's
Japan, me in
awesome.
Pakistan. Yeah, so it's one of those things. So if you're one of those people who took away something creative from this, you're the legend. You're the legend. You
Right?
deserve it.
Right? I mean, you
Yeah,
gotta keep your head up, you know? You gotta
exactly.
make the best of it.
Yeah. So, like, if you want to see what an example of legend looks like, just here it is. One of them. One of them. There it is. Hi.
Hello. Hey
Yeah, there we
there.
go. Hey. All right. So that's with the pandemic and everything. And so I just would like to step back and ask about you a little bit more, because people who are watching this, obviously they want to know more about you, in
Right.
ring and outside the ring both. So starting from the very beginning, were you always into the world of professional wrestling as a kid, or is it something that you developed later on?
So, I came to wrestling super late, actually. I think I didn't know anything about wrestling up until I was around 18 or 19. And it was pure accident because around that time I was heavily into music and going to concerts and gigs. I mean, I still am, but by accident I saw this poster and it looked super rad. You know, it was like a super nice illustration and it said like Rock and Roll Wrestling Bash. So we bought tickets, we went there, and then we like without knowing what it was gonna be like, and it was the craziest thing I had ever seen. Um, you know, you had like a punk band playing the band, and you had, of course, the matches with crazy gimmicks, and you know, just this guy came out with like a dead chicken, you know, and he was throwing that around. We were just like, whoa, what the hell is this, you know? And like all the cool moves, and we could stand like right at the ringside. It was just, you know, it was just a great show, you know, entertainment wise, and plus the wrestling. So that's where it sort of kicked off. And then me and my best friend, we started to watch WWE regularly. You know, we would get the video games, we would get into that, and then sort of, you know, time it became, you know, not a hobby, but you know, it came to the point where people were like, hey, you could be a cool wrestler, you know. So that's when I went to training, and that's where I kicked it off.
Well, that's great. So, what was the first impression you had about wrestling? Was it like, it's so bizarre, or is it something that you thought that it's interesting, it looks interesting, I want to try it, I want to see it more? Or do you think, like, what is this? Like, what are they doing? What was your first impression of when you actually saw a match?
I thought it was just the greatest show, you know, because it had so many different elements. I was just blown away by this amount of you know, like presence and passion and intensity.
Yeah,
You know, you have the people come in with the music and they carry themselves the way they do, and they like everybody has their style, and then they do these crazy things in the ring. You know, they beat each other up, all this, you know, like violence. Also, that was I
yeah,
was sort of drawn to because I'm into punk music, I'm into rock and roll. You know, it had, you know, I felt that wrestling sort of had a similar energy. You know, yeah, I thought it was just an amazing culmination of, you know, entertainment in general.
yeah.
But also I was thinking, what the hell is going on? So of course, it was a lot. The impression was huge I had, yeah.
Okay, so, and what in what year did you actually started practicing or training for wrestling? Which year was it?
That was the beginning of 2017, or like the end of 2016. It was winter. That's when I started training, and then half a year after that, I had my debut. So that's
Okay.
that. So that's like I just celebrated my year and 3 year anniversary. So I've been wrestling for 3.5 years.
Well, that's great because a lot of people start from very early ages, like
Mm,
14, 15.
I know.
A lot of
I
a lot of
envy them.
people. Yeah, I mean, I wish I was because I started when I was probably 24, 25.
Yeah,
Uh,
like I was 23, so that's considered
yeah,
late for some people.
it is late for some people because by the time they reach like 24, 25, we have examples of people like you know I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have examples of people like Randy Orton, who became a world champion when he was 24. So
Right.
then you kind of actually get into that zone like, damn, I could have started at 15. I would
I
have been a
know.
champion by 24. So that's one
Yeah,
regret. But I guess wherever you start, that's the beginning of it, right? And
right.
so
And you can't beat yourself up with what is,
yeah,
it's just gonna slow you down.
exactly.
And
Then we also have people who started very late and became very popular very soon,
right, right.
right? So I guess something like that also happened with you a little bit because you
Mm.
started really late, not late as to how
I
you want to
wouldn't
say
say
it.
really late. I
I
mean,
wouldn't say yeah. It's not really late. It's just a matter of time and like what time you actually discovered it. So you
yeah,
discovered it
exactly.
and you definitely liked it and then you started it. But many few people can claim that within like a couple of years or like a 3 years span of their time, they're actually holding a title, and it's not very common, especially not
That's
for
true.
Japan, for a country who's very well versed in wrestling. And that's one of the things that I like about Japan is that they take it very seriously,
They do.
and even the kids, I legit, I'm not kidding you. I legit made notes for our podcast, and I made notes of a match I saw a couple of years ago, and it was Kenny Omega, and he was fighting about some 7, 8 years old. It was
Ah, I saw that.
I you saw that, right? So that's the level of dedication they have for this sports.
I
So
know.
for somebody to be there and start and be a champion this early is nothing less than an achievement. But do,
Mm.
do you also share that opinion, or would you say like no, I pretty much had it planned or something like that? But do you also think that yeah, it's been a blessing that I got to the point where I got in so much in such a less time.
I mean, definitely. I'm very lucky that I'm here. Like after 3.5 years of being in the business, so to say. It's crazy for me to be here in Japan. Working here as a professional. This is my full-time job. Holding a title still. I've been holding it for nearly half a year now. So this is definitely crazy to me still, and I'm sometimes wondering, wow, that was went quick, but also I've been working pretty hard to get here. It's not only pure luck, but I put in a lot of time and I put in a lot of energy, and I've been working towards getting that title for a year. So I've proven myself, sort of, and I'm proud of it. So it is quite an accomplishment, I think.
So do you think like this could be one of those things where because as a human, because it happens with me, so as a human, we keep changing, keep evolving, and our brain keeps evolving, and we keep coming up with new ideas and stuff like that.
Right.
So do you think that there would be a chance? I'm hoping not, but do you think there would be a chance like 5 years down the road, and you think I I wish I've done that better. I wish I could have. I would have done that match better. I wish I could have ended that match better. Would you think that you would get
Uh,
something like that?
I get that all the time. Like after I do a match, I step out of the ring and I'm already recounting all the things I could have done better. Like I'm super tough on myself when it comes to that. I can barely watch my stuff, you know. So it's just like, oh God, okay, that one's good, that was good. But then, oh God, you know. So of course, you can always do better. You know, you can always put more time in. I guess, you know. There's always so much work to do. But then again, you know, you gotta take rest too sometimes, especially in wrestling. You know, it's like it's so much hard stuff on your body, and you gotta, you know, take some time to reflect on stuff. But
There's
I
always
try
that
to,
one move,
yeah,
right? There's every match you do. There's always that one move that you think, yeah, that's the one. That's okay. I actually like that one. But then the rest of and I don't understand what this phenomena is. Like, I also wouldn't like to sit and actually watch one of my matches. I'd gladly watch any of my colleagues' matches, so like my
right,
coworkers' matches, and like, but it's very weird to see yourself because then you're like, I could have done better. You know, it's always a
yeah,
thing. It's always
always.
changing and always evolving. So speaking of evolving and becoming better and all stuff like that, what would you say is the most important thing that you have learned in professional wrestling as in training? Because we all know from like people who watch this podcast, we go over this with probably every guest, like what is the process and yada yada. Yada. So, what is the one thing that you learned that's the most important thing about professional wrestling?
Oh, that's such a tough question. The most important thing about wrestling, I couldn't say that. Wrestling is something that is made of so many different elements that are all important. I could talk about one thing that I've recently picked up
Mm-hmm.
and thought about. This is super important. I think, and not to say it's the most important, but it's something that is important. And I think it's timing. You know, it's
Timing,
like and timing and rhythm. You know, there's something to coming up with a match. You know, and going. You know, it's tension and release. You know, having a good feeling for when to to be a bit slower and then to explode, you know, and just give it a little bit, play jazz, or play rock and roll, this sort of like it goes fast and then you go give it a little bit of space again,
yeah.
and having a good feeling for when to put that face, that kick in the face, and then put a little bit of heat on, that's something that I'm really working on right now to get a good groove in my matches, because you can put everything just bum, 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 move after move after move, or be really slow, But I think the real essence lies in having a good feeling of
So,
timing.
so in layman terms, like either be Young Bucks or be Orange Cassidy. You can be either one of those. You can be in the middle. You
That's
have to
pretty
be,
good.
yeah, you have to be
Yeah,
somewhere between that range, because if you watch Young Bucks is like they don't have any slow moments. I
yeah, that's
hate
true.
or I haven't noticed any slow moments in their matches, but with
No, they don't.
Orange is like the sloth of wrestling. It,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's good. Yeah, sloth of
yeah,
wrestling. But then again, his style becomes extremely interesting when he does explode every now and then. You know.
yeah.
So
So
this
yeah,
is and so he's a master.
mhm, yes,
I think he's sort of enough of timing.
right. So that's one of the geniuses of his character and everything, because he has built himself this comedic persona, but then when it's actually time to show off, he can show that
He
a
can, of course.
legit, yeah, he's a legit performer. Um, so
That makes him a good wrestler. I mean, I've seen videos. There's this video I saw where you can see like him evolve. Like
yeah,
from when he
yeah, yeah,
started, and then you see, of course, he can do everything. He's just a legit
exactly.
wrestler. But he came up with something that is very interesting. And just sometimes taking everything away and just sticking with essentials of something can be extremely interesting, and there's no other character like him, and that's what you have to accomplish when you want to be a good wrestler, you know, got to come up with your own thing. He did that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of like characters and stuff, because we know in professional wrestling, there's always a character involved. I guess the last guest we had, I guess that was about a week ago. She was also, a very good performer. She was just starting off. Rain Rivers was her name, and she didn't agree with all the characters and stuff. She said, I don't really have a character, it's all me. So would you then come to the argument that there needs to be a character, or do you think like being you and being original to yourself would be the way to go in wrestling in the new generation?
I think there are no rules in wrestling, you know. I think there is no it has to be this or it has to be that way. Some people come up with crazy great characters, you know. Some people are really good at being themselves, you know. Sometimes I see somebody and you can tell it's just themselves, just amped up a little bit, you know, classic, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. And then sometimes you see, you know, a gimmick wrestler, for example, and I'm thinking, damn, that's a great gimmick, damn, that's a great concept, you know.
Yeah.
So I think, and then you have, you know, I think a very technical wrestler who is a great athlete and is capable of doing a lot of great things in the ring doesn't necessarily have to be a character in that sense. If you can get the mix of everything, you know, if you're good at everything, of course, and you have a great character, of course, that's the non plus ultra, you know. But I think there's space for all sorts of styles, you know.
All right. So how would you describe yourself in the ring? Is it something that you adopted, or is it just all you?
I think, I mean, right, I'm at a stage where I try to be all me, you know, because it's really difficult. I think this is one of the things that I'm still working on, sort of, you know, trying to really find me, you know, as a wrestler. But that's also a thing. I'm still training every day, you know, and
Yep.
I'm talking a lot to my trainer here. It's Mia Shirai, might ring a bell. She's the sister of Io Shirai. So I get constant input, you know. So I constantly have to feel for, I could do this better and I could do that better, you know. So I'm basically all the time I'm evolving and trying to perfectionate, you know. But basically, I'm at a good point right now. I'm doing pretty fine being myself and being a bit more intense, of course, than I would be in real life. Then my character is me plus the gimmick of, you know, Toxic Spider is my alias. So my moves are all, you know, sort of surrounded. So they're sort of surrounding this alias, you know. I go into the bridge a lot, you know, and I get a bit scary, you know. I clutch like a spider, you know, and I have this like fast, intense, aggressive attitude.
So where did the toxic spider came from?
Basically, the first of all, my name, like Thekla, it's my real name, my real life name as well, and a lot of people back at home associate that with this animation series that was in style in the 80s or 70s, I think, and it had this spider. There was a mean spider, and it was called Thekla. And my name is pretty rare, so everybody would always say, "Oh, like that spider in that, you know, kids show." So that was the first thing. I thought that was maybe that's something I can work with. And then the other thing is like I'm just generally I'm very flexible, you know, like going into the bridge, you know, or just doing submission moves. Everything just made sense to go, you know, for like a spirit animal like the spider. Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. That's interesting. Not a lot of people have that kind of backstory. So I'm very glad that you kind of have that. So you, just kind of curious. You weren't exactly born in Japan, right? Or you were born in Japan?
No, not at all. I was born in Austria. I'm from Vienna.
Okay.
And I've only been here for I came here in January. It's my third time in Japan. and right now I'm living here, and that's all due to Corona, basically.
So what makes it better in Japan as compared to your like hometown? Uh, is it because Japan is more heavily into wrestling, or is it because something else? Is it the culture, or what makes it a better place to be
I mean, I love my hometown. Nothing against my hometown and my scene back at home, but when it comes to wrestling, everything is better in Japan. Japan is just
there?
the place to be when it comes to wrestling. But then I've always been into Japanese culture also. I love watching Japanese movies. I love going to the kabuki theater. All sorts of things. It's just very. I was always very curious about it. So when I first came here, that was 2018, I think. I was like blown away by the culture and Tokyo and the people here. It was also peculiar and super interesting. So also, like while I was being a wrestler back in Austria, and I noticed that maybe through the connections and my promotion, I could have the chance to be a wrestler here. That really motivated me to work a lot harder to become a wrestler, because I thought maybe I might make it to Japan and be able to live here. So that was just two things that um, that got together.
Okay. So while you're in Japan, what are the chances of us watching you going to NJPW?
New Japan, that is difficult because they own Stardom, or they work together with Stardom. Do you know Stardom?
Yeah.
It's currently the biggest Joshi Pro wrestling company. And
Yes.
my company is Ice Ribbon, and Ice Ribbon and Stardom are, they're not very close, I would say, So
Okay.
in Japan, it's like that. You come to a company, you stick with that company most of the time, So New Japan, not sure right now. So, but yeah, I didn't come here first to be with Ice Ribbon. They have recently asked me to be a member, so that makes me, I'm loyal to my company, and I love working
Okay.
for them.
Okay. Because I think in Japan, like that's the biggest, right? New Japan is the biggest
Yeah,
in Japan. So
yeah,
and one of the things that I love about Japan is that how huge their events are, or actually they used to be. Like I remember I watched one with the Tokyo Dome, where Jericho was going after Okada. I guess that's what Wrestle Kingdom was.
mm,
I'm not sure of what the name was, but I guess it was Wrestle Kingdom, and Tokyo Dome was jam packed,
yeah.
and that's one of the things that I like.
I went to a Wrestle Kingdom show 2 years ago when I first came to Japan,
Mm.
and it was insane. I think it was 40,000 people. It was
Yeah,
huge. Tokyo Dome is huge, and people are going crazy. It was so impressive. I was It was
I mean people
insane.
people think that people from America are the most interested in wrestling, but
Yeah,
wait till you see the people in Japan. Um,
yeah.
I don't remember the name of the performer that I watched it for, but he was returning after a few months of sabbatical, or I guess he was injured. And when his music hits and it's coming out, I've seen girls crying and like boys, and they're just crying and they're sweeping off their tears and stuff. I've never seen anything like that in America or WWE. And I guess
That's
that's
true.
one of the things that makes Japan stand out more in terms of wrestling compared to
Japanese
US.
fans are very, very passionate about wrestling. Very passionate. I mean, you get that. You get that in Mexico as well.
Yeah.
Lucha fans are super passionate. American fans are also very passionate. But there's just this thing in Japan. They just take it a little bit more serious. It's just
Yeah.
a little bit amped up when it comes to that.
Yeah.
They really love wrestling. That's
They
why I
they
like it
do.
here. because they like the fans here, they meet you with so much respect, and they really want to support you. And you know, it's always, you know, they, you can always hear that about the Japanese audiences. They're very quiet when they watch matches, you know, and that's because they're so concentrated. You know, there's no time to get wasted like in America or in Europe, you know, to be like, you know, there's no time for that because they're so so interested in what's going on in the ring, you know, and so disciplined when it comes to that, because they want to see every little thing that's going on. And that's very, you know, that's very impressive and super cool, you know, when somebody's so much into your craft, you know.
Okay. And one thing you can also confirm for me, because I've only seen this and heard it, but I've never met somebody who has actually experienced working in Japan. Uh, Apparently, they do not take it very lightly if you're not performing well, and they wouldn't think twice before, like, you know, before they start hitting you, and they start hitting really bad. So
You
it's
mean
I just
shooting?
not shooting. I wouldn't say that, but they take it a bit too far. Not too far, but a bit level up when they're
Mm.
working with you in the ring. Like when they chop, they wouldn't chop like somebody would chop in America. They would chop like
Mm.
they're chopping you for the first time and the last time in their life. Does that is that true? Is that how every Japan performer works, or is it some certain ones?
Japanese can be very stiff, I guess, for sure. Mm, I don't know. Like back at my home company, I was, you know, we took on that sort of style, so I can't really say if it's tougher here, you know.
Yeah,
But of course, it's something like just as the fans, also the wrestlers take wrestling extremely serious, you know. Um, so yeah, chops can be devastating, of course. You know,
yeah,
it is stiff, but then again, I don't know if it's, you know, I haven't had so much experience outside of Japan. You know, I had most, even though I had a lot of matches in Austria as well, I had most of my matches in Japan, so I can't really compare. You know, I'm used to it. I'm used to the stiffness. Um, I've never been intentionally hurt here. You know, so but I also try to perform very well, so there is no reason to, you know, to give me any shit, you know what I mean.
of course.
But uh, yeah, I think Japan is known for that for sure.
That's true. One thing that I wanted to ask at the beginning, I kind of forgot about that, and I'm glad that I now remember. Is I also wanted to ask when you first started training for it 4 years back, and your first day in the ring, and the first things they ask you to do is to start taking a bump. And when you actually did it for the first time, was it like, okay, I made a mistake. It's probably not what I was expecting, or was it this is exactly what I was expecting? Which one of it was?
Dude, the story of the bump,
Yeah,
man. I mean,
everybody has it. Like the first bump, nobody likes the first bumps. Nobody likes it. Yeah,
I didn't like the like number 50 either. You know, I didn't like number 60 either. To be
yeah,
very honest with you, so I come like back at home. I come from an underground league, and we don't have a proper, you know, ring that moves. You know, so we did different bumps. We did side bumps and we did front bumps, but not, you know, the actual real back bump. So it took me,
yeah,
you know, I had to come to Ice Ribbon and really master the bump, and I just recently started to do it, like, you know, nicely. So but I it took me a long time, and I'm not gonna lie, I cried a lot. It is like also not even only in the rings but also outside of it, you know, talking to my friends like, I can't do it and it hurts so much, you know.
yeah.
The bump is a devastating thing. And
Mhm.
but to be honest, I've like recently, since I've mastered it, I've started to like it, you know. So
Yeah.
now, like once you're able to do it, it's just like, yeah, I want to go again, you know, it just hit me
Once you
already.
really once you really
Yeah.
get your fear out, I guess that's one of the things that people get stuck with. and it's the fear. So it also happened with me. I really got really afraid of doing some certain moves like power bomb and doing anything from the
Totally.
top rope. That's some of the things that really terrified me in the beginning. And the coach that I had at that time, he said like take a bump. So and I took a bump. So yeah, okay, that's cool. Now go on the second rope and took a bump. Like from the
Mm.
second rope, like yeah, go on the second rope and take a bump. Like and I did that very, very wrong, and I did hurt my back. So anybody who's listening to this and your guys are thinking like, "Hey, it's easy. Apparently, this dude can do it, so I can do it." No, it takes a certain kind of. I don't want to offend anybody, but it does take a certain kind of breed to really get into this because the people who are
Mm.
actually doing it on a daily basis, we're not normal people. To be very exact with
No,
you,
yeah,
we're not.
totally.
We're not.
I agree.
We're crazy.
Yeah,
We like
yeah.
to beat each other up for a living, and so
You have to be so dedicated. You
mm,
really have to want this to to be able to go this far, and you really have to put yourself out there and do it again and do it again and get, and it hurts. It hurts so much, and it takes a lot to do it. Yeah, for sure.
so what's the one wrestling move that you would say you're still terrified to perform, or you wouldn't really even think about doing it?
Mm.
Like a move. I'm not talking about throwing you on top of the Hell in a Cell like mankind was.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I know what you mean. I mean, it's like right now I'm at such a good point. Like when once you've gotten over a couple of things, and then you sort of understand how it all works, and you get
Mhm,
all motivated, and it doesn't take as long anymore to
mhm.
get to do a move. You know what I mean? So I'm at that
Yeah,
stage right now. So I say like I want to try this, and they're like, yeah, then try it, and it doesn't take long, and then it's like yeah. So, but I still can't see myself the suicide dive. That's
suicide.
something
That's
that yeah, that's something I see. I watch on TV, and it's like, man, I'm terrified of doing that. But then
Yeah,
again, I think
it's a bit
it's not.
complicated, and again, it's
Yeah,
one of those things with the timing that you mentioned.
yeah,
If your
yeah, yeah,
timing is correct, then you can do everything. But with the suicide dive, especially if you're doing it from the middle of the ropes,
yeah.
your legs can easily get roped in that second rope.
Exactly, like
Yeah,
tangled, and then you just or the person doesn't catch you. It's like
yeah,
it can go terribly wrong. And then I think a lot of people can do it, but that's something where I'm like, I'm so terrified of my feet just getting just getting stuck at the ropes. But then I
yeah,
mean, I'm like, throughout my career I'm probably going to learn how to do it, and I'm going to be like, yeah, why was I terrified of that? It's all good.
yeah. All right, so that's great. So when it came to the point of your career where you're working, and then you finally got a call, and they told you you're going over and you're getting the title. So what was that moment like for you when you first heard that okay, and everybody's gonna see you win a title, an actual legitimate, championship title? What was the first thing that came to mind? Like, all right, it's not real because the first thing I would have come it came to would have my mind. I would like, no, there's no way this is real. It has to be like a dream or something. So what was going through your mind when you got that call?
Okay, like, first of all, I got my title back at home in Austria. So I won it in Vienna, and I was, as I said before, I was working already like for a year towards that title. And I had, I think, two title matches. One I got disqualified, and the other I didn't win. I just lost. It was triple threat. So basically, when I did get it, I was like, hell yeah, I'm getting this. So I was not like, wow, that's so awesome. I was like, yeah, it's about time. I was getting a bit cocky about it, actually. But yeah, yeah. But I was pretty happy. I'm super happy that I got to bring it here. I was with Ice Ribbon last year as well, but only for 6 weeks. It was sort of like, first time, like, see how I like it, see how they like me, if I can get along with them, and it was great. And then coming back this year with a title was like, that's pretty cool. It's something to be proud of and be like, I got the title here, I got it, and they're like, yeah, that's awesome, that's great. And then
It
and
is
then what
awesome.
I and then what I'm really happy about is that I finally get to defend it. Like, because of Corona, we didn't have any big shows, so it didn't make sense to do it, on the live broadcast thing. I mean, we could have done it, but it's not, it doesn't have that feel to it. But now that we're doing big shows again with people watching live in the audience, it's cool to be able to defend it. And I did that 2 days ago, and it was awesome. Kept my title,
Right.
and I get to do it again this weekend.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, to be able to do that in it's really awesome, and it's only a feeling that you can really feel like when you're actually looking after it and stuff like that. But it's so would you ever like, because I know you're right now you're just enjoying everything that you have, like with ice ribbon and everything, and you just want to get better and everything. So would there be any chances of you working outside of Japan with like other countries in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going back to Europe in this fall. I don't know exactly when, but it's probably going to be September. So, and then I'll try. I mean, it's still Corona back in Europe. It's pretty heavy still, I think. But if I can, I'll definitely try to travel around Europe and do some stuff there. I really, really hope to go to Mexico soon. That's the one thing on my mind right now. It's a big. I just really want to see that lucha stuff. I really want to try it myself. Get a little bit of that into my style as well. And except for that, yeah, that's what I'm all about. Traveling. I came to wrestling for the thrills, and I came for traveling. That's what I love. That's what I've always loved, even before wrestling. So if I can, I will go to as many crazy places with crazy wrestling fans as I can. I was supposed to go to the Philippines, actually, to Manila
Oh, okay.
in April, but then Corona hit, and I stayed in Japan, which is great, of course. But this sort of feeling, that's what I want to do. I want to go everywhere if I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, because of this virus and everything, it it's good that we there are a few people like you, like me, and there are a few people who got something out of it as a positive.
Right.
But it also messed up a lot of things. Like, for example, your April's plans. Like, we were scheduled to have our first big show or a big event in the city back in
Yeah.
June, so that got delayed, and
Yeah.
we had everything. So like scheduling to matches, performers, we had everything ready, but then unfortunately we can't have audience. Uh, we also talked about doing something a bit more creative, like doing it at a beach or something,
No.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because WWE has done a few matches in like their performance center with nobody in it, yet they made it interesting. AEW has been doing it for some
Right.
time now without any people, so we thought we'll just get a bit creative and do it somewhere outside, but uh, unfortunately, these exotic places are also closed due to the virus.
Uh,
So that's also down the drain. So we're really right now waiting for things to go back to normal so we can launch and do all the crazy stuff that we wanted
right.
to do. Speaking of crazy stuff, have you ever like in all of your experience and all of your career so far that you have built for yourself? Have you ever came across anything or any fan, I would say, any fan or like that gave you such a incredible story? Like, I met that fan once, and he had my name on the chest and stuff like that. Has it ever happened to you? Any crazy fan story you have?
Nothing that crazy, I think, to be honest. I have to, nah, maybe I have to stick around for a little bit longer to get the real crazy stuff, to be honest. I mean, I have some awesome fans for sure.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
okay. Yeah.
some loyal fans for sure. But nothing. I mean, I know some crazy stories from other people, but my fans are very down to earth so far. Nothing too crazy, no.
Of course, of course, of course. My first match, my fan actually caused me to lose the match. That happened.
What?
Yeah, yeah, that happened. That happened. We all know it's about predetermination and everything, so it was bound to happen anyway. But it was the first match. We obviously knew nobody. Nobody knew us, and a bunch of people were invited. So the rest of the people came in because it was an open ground, and people, started watching that. Okay, something is happening in the ground. They didn't know what was happening, so they came in. Then they called other people. Then they called other people. So we ended up having some 120, 150 people, and so obviously when you make an entrance, they call your name, right? So they knew what my name was, and at the at the very end of the match, when we were about to do our last go around and finish the match, this one dude stood up and started chanting my name for some reason. I may have been very interesting to him. So I basically just left the match and I started looking for him. Like, who is this man chanting for me? Like, I'm looking everywhere. Who is this? Who is he? And my good friend who I was working with, schoolboy me, and we ended the match like that. So he actually made me lose my match in a way.
Oh, that's
So
pretty crazy.
yeah, that's
Can't
that's one thing.
can't can't get distracted by the fans. That's
Yeah,
one of
yeah,
the
yeah.
first rules.
Yeah. First match, it was 2014. It was my first match, and we were supposed to have 50 people, but then it ended up like 150 people. So that in itself was crazy. But then this
That is
one dude
that is
started
pretty
chanting.
awesome.
Yeah,
That is
yeah, yeah.
pretty
So
awesome though.
it was an open place. It was an open ground, and there were residential buildings, like apartments everywhere, like revolving it. And so people were on their balconies and they were watching, like, what the hell is happening here? And so that's how they came down and everything. So
That
that's
is
great.
something that I would love to experience myself. You know, like go to some place that I've never been before. You know, with a completely different culture. You're expecting like a 30 people match. You know, of people who have never even heard of wrestling, and all of a sudden it's like 300 people watching. You know, that's a great story. You know, you go home with that story in your suitcase, and people are gonna freak out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah. So that's awesome. And speaking of that, we also have a very limited time available in our podcast right now. And so it's very sad that we're getting to the end of it very soon. I wish it was a bit longer, but unfortunately it isn't. But we're hoping that in the future we might do a part two with you again, where we
Sure.
discuss more things and going into more details and stuff. So before the end of the
Anytime.
podcast, what we usually do is we usually thank everybody, but here we're going to do a little bit differently. So I had a few messages here, so I'm gonna read you a few messages.
Oh, sure.
Second, so there's one person who is on our page. He would like to know if you would be interested in coming to Pakistan. So like where we are.
Pakistan?
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Anytime. Would love to come.
All right, she's
What you
coming
just
next
told
week.
me, what you just told me sounds awesome. So I'd
Yeah,
come
yeah,
if Corona's over and you guys
yeah.
invite me.
Exactly.
I'll be coming.
Okay. All right. The other person asking like, what's your finisher move? So you'd like to know what's your finisher.
My finisher, it's called the Weberknecht, which is German for daddy long legs. You know, it's a certain spider. You know, it's like one of those with the very thin legs, and it sort of looks like the Mutalok. Maybe you know that. You know, it's like
Okay.
I have a submission on the legs. You know, and then I go into a bridge, and then I clutch. You know, the face lock. You know, and you know.
Okay.
make the person tap.
I get it.
So
I get it.
so
I
and
would
mine
want.
mine mine looks a bit different. I go into
Yeah.
the bridge and then I walk into the face lock. That's my finisher.
Okay. So definitely avoid that. You don't want to be in that position. All right.
Nah.
The next, yeah, yeah. The next question we have. All right. What was the next question? Uh, oh yeah, one dude is asking, "What's you what? Oh, he's asking, what's your theme song, or as it's something that you created yourself, like
Yeah,
Shawn
it
Michaels."
is. It is. I wrote it myself with a friend. So it's like it's a bit like heavy metal, goth, gothish. I don't know. So there's my voice in the beginning. It's like humming, and then it gets heavy guitars, and I play the guitar on that thing. So you can find it on
Oh,
YouTube. Just
now I would like to listen. If you have to, share it with
yeah,
me
yeah.
so we can.
Sure,
Yeah,
I can share the link, and you find it on
yeah.
YouTube. It's you just type in my name and then entrance song, entrance theme. You'll find
Okay,
it.
okay. We'll definitely do that, and we'll share it with my friends too. All right. The next thing we got. Okay. Uh, at what age would you think would be better for you to, wrap it up?
Ooh, I think mid 30s is good, but it really depends on your body. It depends on how much damage you do to your body and just um, how when you start, when you how your body takes it. Everybody's different. So I think like most girls here in Japan, most women probably stop around 35, 30, 40
Okay.
at the most. So I think that's probably if nothing goes wrong, that's
Okay.
probably the
Or
time that
you
I'll
you
be
can
stopping too. Who knows?
or you can go as long as you want, like Ric
Yeah,
Flair.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I
keep
mean,
going.
I'm gonna do whatever I want, and what
Yeah,
my
yeah,
body's gonna allow me to do. So
yeah. Of course,
hopefully
nobody's
long.
stopping you. Like, you pay your dues, and you gotta do what you gotta do. You have to do what you have to do.
It's a drug, I mean, yeah, I'm an addict, I
Yeah,
can't. It's like I'll probably be destroying my body for quite a while still.
for sure. You know, and but everybody likes to admit it because we're all wrestling junkies. So
Yep,
we're all junkies in a way.
we
We
are.
all are. We are. Okay, one final question before we end this podcast. Uh, what was it? Oh yeah. The next question we had was, who would you pick if you had the chance? Was it if it was WWE or AEW? Who would you pick? That was the question.
Like for me to wrestle
Yes.
AEW right now.
All right, because the way they're doing things, or because WWE isn't creative anymore.
I think it's pretty cool the way they're doing things. It's something fresh, generally I think it's always cooler to go with the underdog, even though maybe AEW is not going to be the underdog for very much longer. But I also feel maybe there's a bit more freedom in AEW, and freedom is something I care deeply about. I wouldn't want to be in a contract where my name's being taken away from me, and everything I care about style-wise is being taken away from me.
Okay.
So I'd pick AEW.
Okay. That being said, another, we everybody asks this question. Their always answer is AEW, and frankly, if everybody asked me, I would be calling AEW as well. All right. So with that being said, we're actually towards the end of the podcast, and it was such a lovely time talking to you today. And uh, you
Same
know,
here.
you get to know the people, and one of the best things about this podcast is that we really want to connect with everybody, and we want to showcase like all these performers, like you, like all the performers we had here, all the
Super
people we
cool.
have on the podcast, and we want to show like, hey, it's cool that you watch WWE and AEW and all these things, but then there are all
There's
these,
so much more out there.
yeah, there's so much more out there to really watch and enjoy, and that's another motive we have, that we want to enhance and embrace all the performers, who are working, who are not yet on the, not yet, as they call it, fishing with the waters, or what do they call it, like
Right.
swimming with the sharks, something like that. Uh,
Something like that.
yeah, something like that. Something to do with sharks and big teeth and
And
something.
fish.
Yeah, 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 something with the big fish. All right. So until you're at that point, there are so many people you can watch and enjoy, just like you can watch and enjoy Theklas' work. So if you are watching this, go give her a like, and we will also try to link up her social media so you can give her a follow and tell
Thank
her
you.
that you came from Revolution in Eastern Wrestling. So at the end of the podcast, we want to give you the best of the luck from everybody, from me, from my team, and
Thank you so much.
I sure do hope that whatever you do, wherever you want to do it, you'll do it the best. So thank you again for
Thank you
joining in
so
here.
much for inviting me. I had a great time.
Thank you so much, Thekla. So with that, we'll end the podcast. Anybody who's watching this, please take care of yourself, take care of your family. Do not go out without a mask or without a sanitizer. So please be safe. Be safe. Not for yourself, but for your family. Please, please.
For
Thank you
everybody
so much.
out there.
Anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Let's hope for the best. Let's hope this thing goes over soon. It's going to be over soon, and we can all enjoy wrestling and traveling the world the way we used to. Um, Everybody stay healthy. Everybody stay cool. Thanks for watching. See you
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye bye.